Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Church's Community Roundtable. We're so excited to have a discussion with our community partners, community leaders, and community residents. Actually, tonight is such a wonderful conversation. For some of you that haven't are not familiar with the Leadership Church, we are a church ministry located right in DeKalb County that partners with educators and also many other education institutions to support our students and support the community in many initiatives. And tonight's conversation has been led surrounding our HBCU scholarship and sneaker ball, and not only that, our HBCU Leadership in Motion scholarship. And so we're so excited to have some subject matter experts tonight joining us from various different background and experiences. And so I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. But first, my name is Elisha V. Cash, and I serve as the executive pastor for the Leadership Church, many times responsible for many community initiatives. So thank you so much for everyone joining us tonight. Roundtable, my special guest, would you introduce yourself, starting with Mr. Collins?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Artis Collins III, and I am an admissions counselor and recruiter for Payne College located in Augusta, Georgia.
All right, Coach Damian Williams. This is my 26th year of education. I'm a teacher and head football coach at Regan High School.
Good evening, everyone. It's Mr. Penke. I'm the school head counselor at Southwest DeKalb High School in DeKalb County. About 18, 19 years of experience with students in high school, students in the community. Cash, you might be muted.
I am muted. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Tonight, we are pulling up with a very timely discussion on the decline of African American males attending higher education and pursuing college. And so I thought it not robbery to have three males and three Black males and particularly who are experts in the area that touch students at some point, and could provide feedback on what they kind of think's going on. So let's not belabor the hour. We're just gonna kind of hop off into it. When I approached you with the conversation tonight, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Well, I dropped my daughter off at Albany State yesterday. She's a freshman there this year, and they had the yard signs you put in when kids graduate. So they had them all around her dorm. So if it was 100, say, yard signs, it was on like five males and 90 something female. I'm weird like that. So I'm sitting there counting, and there was only like five males and 95 female signs. And I was just like, wow. I was kind of, because I heard a question like this before on some social media platform, and I was just wondering, like, I remember when I was in college, like, where are the males, as far as that's concerned? Are they graduating and just different things like that? And there was a male dorm and a female dorm, so it wasn't just a female dorm, per se. There were different dorms around. They were on like 5 out of 100 in that group of science there. So that's the first thing that came to mind.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I sure will. Well, the first thing that came to mind was college and readiness and just speaking to the community. Um, Initially, it's like, yeah, there aren't a lot of Black males in education, just from elementary to high school, which then is going to, in turn, decrease the number of students or black males going to college. Um, if you don't see it in action, like black men in education, they are the ones that's going to pretty much push other black males to go to college. And if they're not in the high school teaching and educating, then they're not going to be the ones pushing students forward. So um, I just think about the number of counselors and educators that are black males in the school system in general as to why and where we need to go with, you know, getting more black males in higher education.
Thank you for that, Mr. Collins.
Yes, I think that both of my counterparts that are here tonight made great points. As a person who deals with this on a daily, it is a point that we would love to address, especially with us being a part of not only our own communities, but being a part of the African American community face to face. It's something that I think there are certain components of it that are things that we can change as far as us working in the education field. But I think there are other things that play a role with society and at home. But yes, this is something that we would love to address.
Thank you. Well, I can tell you for me, gentlemen, it's been a few things that kind of been alarming for me. One is I have a high school daughter. Well, I'm the mother of two teenagers, and I have a high school daughter who is graduating, going to college this year. And it was noticeable to me when I started to take her on college tours, and some of the renowned colleges that we were touring, when they talked about the student ratio and the male to female ratio, then it was the black male to black female ratio. Then I really digested. It was one thing to hear. It's always been that the females have outnumbered the males at school. So that part we weren't, that wasn't so alarming, but it was the record alarming fact where they said at this particular school, there's only 2 floors of male students in this dorm. And that was like, wow. Like, out of all the students, basically this university is short of becoming a all female university, and it was an HBCU. And so for me, that was a huge alarm. And then this year, an article, I'm not sure if you are privy to it, but the New York Times, a couple of articles came out to talk about the decline of enrollment at historically Black colleges and universities, and how, in particularly, a sharp drop in the past 50 years, HBCUs have just seen a humongous decline. And so it presents a huge discussion surrounding what are we missing? Why are we having that? And then I'll even bring it home even further. What really prompted this conversation is that the Leadership Church, we have this Leadership in Motion scholarship, in which in a couple of weeks we will be recognizing students for their academic achievement and for their initiatives in pursuing higher education. And so when we got the applicants back, it was zero male applicants. And so it was so shocking and unbelievable to me. I had to reach out to my counterparts today to have this discussion to find out what is it that we're missing. So, what do you believe are the primary reasons behind the decline of Black male students pursuing higher education? I heard Mr. Pankey talk a little bit about already. He talked about representation in school. What is there anything else that we're missing in regards behind the decline of Black male students pursuing higher education?
Okay. One thing I think is kids want an easier way out of things now. It's more sort of instant gratification of different things, especially males. There's a instant gratification thing. I see that from athletics and academics. I don't think education is valued the same way it used to be. We could not be, maybe we're not meeting some of the needs because some of these kids have a good entrepreneurial spirit. Maybe it's not being fostered enough. And some kids, maybe in our generation, I'm a little older than y'all, I think, that maybe college was actually pushed to kids that didn't really want to go to college, but parents thought that that was an automatic solution to everything. So I think it's a variety of those. I think there's a variety of things, but those are some of the things that I think that I see. That I see. And I also grew up in the Cosby Show, different world era. So I just wanted to go to college. I thought college was the best thing ever, and I got put out of 3 colleges. So and kept going back until I graduated. So I think that, and I still think education is valuable. And my son just graduated from college, and my daughter's a freshman now. Then I have a 2 and a 1 year old, but I don't think I think it has to be pushed in each individual household. And I think kids look for an easier route to success now than we used to.
Anybody else want to chime in? I mean, Coach Weems is speaking from interacting with black male students on a regular basis. He is a football coach, and he has been for a tremendous of years. So he definitely interacts with high school students on a regular basis in helping students attend college. So does anybody else want to chime in? Is he on it, or do you have a different view on the perspective of what we believe the primary reasons behind the decline of Black male students pursuing higher education?
Yeah. So I'll jump in and I'll say yes, that's part of it. Um, Weems touched on entrepreneurship, but I do believe that there's a lot of different options and opportunities now available. When we think about, just the YouTube and the whole, he said instant gratification, but it's the social media platforms where people are able to just make money faster. I see a lot about real estate out there where students can instantly, not students, but people instantly flip houses and they can make money. You
Mhm.
know, that's like a huge thing going on now. Um, Thinking about like apprenticeship training and the baby boomer era who are now getting ready to exit or leave their jobs. These are, skilled laborers, welders, auto mechanics, construction workers, all of those different electrical workers. Those jobs are be plentiful soon. And some students and families don't believe that going to a 4 year college, going into debt is the only option to make it nowadays, right? Where, years ago, I'm a little older as well. College was the only option. Like, you got to go to college, and
Yeah,
that's going to be your golden ticket. There are a lot of other golden tickets now available other than college.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Anybody else, Mr. Collins, you want to weigh in?
Absolutely. This was something that I saw. I believe it was written by a gentleman that went to or currently works at Howard University, that started this conversation. And I previously wrote down some statements to basically combat what he was stating and things of that nature. One of the things, or what I would say, is what Mr. Pankey and Coach Williams have both said is true. When it comes down to the males upon graduating, especially in lower income areas, they've seen some of the things that they had to experience and their families have experienced. And their mindset and the mentality is to now become a provider and to be an instant provider, somebody who is able to, quote unquote, save the family. So you have gentlemen going into the um, service, armed force, excuse me. Then you have gentlemen that are going directly into the workforce. You have gentlemen going into the tech area, things of that nature. Something that can get them money instantly because they feel that maybe that $10 to $15 an hour starting off can help their family now. If they grew up in a single parent household and they have younger siblings, they know that, hey, me potentially going to college is probably going to increase the depression that's going on currently in this household. So that is one thing um, that needed to be addressed. The second thing, as a HBCU alum, one thing that I've noticed firsthand, our HBCU alums that were first generation HBCU alums, that generation that we were just talking about, the Different World Cosby Show, they made it. They went on to do great things within their community. They achieved goals that nobody in their family had ever achieved before. But when it came down to them picking a school, they didn't have much of a choice to choose from. So they went to the HBCU, the in-state school, things of that nature. But now that they've made it, they're saying, no, my child isn't going to have to struggle like I did. My child is going to go to the bigger school. I can afford where my parents could not afford to send me to the state school, to the private school or things of that nature. Or now that I've made a jump in the society ladder, X, Y, and Z in this community, they send their kids to X, Y, and Z school. And I'm choosing to say X, Y, and Z because I don't want to pinpoint anything. But if you can pick up what I'm putting down, you understand. But if we can afford to send my student there, I'm not sending them to the HBCU that, they don't have the dorms that we're looking at now. They don't have the quote unquote prestige that this other institution has. That is something that we are really facing. Another thing that we really haven't addressed as a community, it wasn't always a different world, and it wasn't always the Cosby Show that got our students to HBCUs, especially our males. We had the band. The band was the number one contributor to getting African Americans into HBCUs. When they stopped whatever thing that they were doing that gave students instruments to put in their hands, and I guess it was like a grant that did that, we were flooding HBCUs because people were able to get into the band scholarship program, and it survived. Like, it just thrived. So now here we are. We have high school bands. There used to be 400 plus students in a high school band that they went on to go to a college band. Now we average about 20 to 60 students in these bands. And then you see it on the other end of the spectrum, whereas the HBCU bands are not as big as they used to. But that also translates into the sports aspect. We used to send our athletes to HBCUs. Now, if you're not a other school that is bigger in the NCAA Division I, our athletes don't want to go there. So you literally almost have to tell them it's okay to go to HBCU when it comes down to athletics.
Okay, let's pause right there because you said a whole lot that's controversial. Okay, so I want you to park it real quick. So just to put a little disclaimer out there. One thing that you said, you talked about a different world and the Cosby Show. So I can definitely tell that was the anchor for our generation, because we Generation X. So it was the anchor for our generation. So generationally, that is what motivated. It was like it was that we can make it story for us. We saw ourselves in those spaces, so those things spoke to us. But one of the things that was hugely that show didn't translate to the next generation, that wasn't their why. And so I heard you say your why became through where you felt like the scholarship opportunities from band and things of that nature allowed you to get into other schools. And so now, parents, the price tag of HBCUs and the price tag of some of the other institutions, they neck and neck now. It's $250,000 to go to some HBCUs and $250,000 to go to regular institutions. So I just want to throw that out there. That price tag right now is HBCUs have always been expensive. So that's why back in the day, a lot of students used to pursue some of the PWIs because you had Hope Scholarship that could, lean in and pay for those schools. And if not, if your parents didn't have, if the Pell Grants and other different grants didn't lean itself to it and you didn't get a scholarship, then it was like, okay, how are we going to pay for school? But you brought up something that was very, very interesting that I want Coach Weems and Mr. Panky to lean in on is the scholarship part. Now the students aren't necessarily, it used to be a time where students was choosing HBCUs to go to because of sports. So tell me, what are you seeing in regards to that? Are our kids not even wanting to go play, at HBCU, especially because the male population definitely went to schools because of sports. So are these HBCUs not recruiting our students anymore? What's happening in that arena?
They are, and they always really, I've seen they always have been. But there are a couple contributing factors, and Mr. Panky making chime in on this. He probably has seen this before. A lot of times, and you may remember this when we were at Miller Grove, if a child signs with HBCU, a lot of times parents would think you slighted them. Seriously, they would think that, like, if a child, okay, say if a child on your team goes to Georgia, right? A child on your team goes to Albany State, a child on your team can go to Howard, and we know how much Howard's tuition is. They would think a lot of times that you slighted their child. And the first thing in the child's mind, especially now in the transfer portal era that we're in, they will say, well, they can go there 1 year and transfer, right? I talked to a guy, he's the defensive coordinator at Tuskegee. I talked to him today, and I've been knowing him for a while. And he said that some kids, they try, kids are graduating early and going to college like second semester so they can practice spring. He said they hate to do that at HBCUs because that spring, the child may jump in the transfer portal, and that's just what I've experienced. Then you have people that say like, he owns it. And I heard this with Coach Godfrey for years. They would say like, oh, they're just trying to get them to go to HBCUs, or they just know HBCU coach. I've heard some crazy stuff over the years, but it's not only the parents. Sometimes it's the kids who get that from the parents. All right. Now, I never thought that way personally when I was young because my great grandmother went to Spelman, and so did my great aunt, and so did my sister. Things like that nature. So, and I've been to homecomings and all that kind of stuff. So that was never the way I grew up. These kids are growing up different, which goes back to social media, which goes back to even college visits. I mean, I think Albany State, I thought that was good for my daughter, but of course, as a child running track, she wanted to go to LSU. That wasn't for her track or academic wise. But if you look at Albany State cafeteria, which is really nice, but it's not Georgia's cafeteria. So some people are really big on aesthetics and different things like that, and what looks good versus what's best for the individual child. Some people can survive with over 100,000 students, but a lot of kids can't. So I think that we don't look at that part of it. And I think still, you got to think about it, still, we're going through generations of first-time college students now. That parents may not be leaning on the best people for advice. So I think that's part, to me, that's part of it too. So I think it's the exposure maybe you had to HBCUs just to kill like the myths. It's just kind of like working at a predominantly black high school. You have to break the whole myths and the misperceptions of HBCUs a lot of times, and that goes back to I think Mr. Collins was talking about. Sometimes we made it, but we don't go back and educate people about our experience, and sometimes that we'll make it. Say we might go to a predominantly black high school, we may do something like that, but then public school may not be good enough. I've seen a lot of things, so. Man, my wife already wants to send a 2-1-year old to Woodward. Well, until she saw the price tag. So, but just that. So, I just think that, and I went to Southwest and she went to Stevenson. So, but I just think that exposure leads to expansion, and the same energy that you have, that high school coaches in particular have, when they go to like University of Georgia coaching clinic and Georgia Tech coaching clinic, you also got to expose kids to HBCUs also. And I think that's one of the biggest things we can do as coaches, counselors, teachers, and everything.
Well, here's the other thing: the decline is not only it is including HBCUs, but also decline is in college. And so when it comes to the black males pursuing, because we all know that HBCUs have been the cornerstone for Black education.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Right. If we felt safe, if we felt like someone had our best interest, if we felt like who could be patient with our students and be patient with our kids, then we felt HBCUs could definitely be that soft landing to continue to support our students. And so I still don't know that we have 100% addressed, why Black male enrollment has declined, because our females are outpacing, and so then when that happens, then we see the economic pieces not be even. Then we see our females bringing in a different level of income than our males income. So
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about that from a male's perspective, if you would.
All right. I think Mr. Collins hit on that really well, and Mr. Pankey. If I talked to a kid the other day, I'm just give you an example. He's pretty good in football, but his plan is if football doesn't work out, he's already doing HVAC at OEC, right? That's a tangible plan. And or college may not be for him. He's not the best student, but he has a plan to provide for himself. I think Mr. Collins mentioned it. Some men see now early on, because I think we're in a lot of single parent homes too, that they have to be the provider right now. And they want to do, something legal and something, like that. So I think that a lot of people are saying they have to grow. A lot of kids are growing up faster than they had to grow up before. So they're saying those 4 to 5 years of college is not a waste of time, but it's delaying them being able to provide for themselves and for their family.
Yeah, yes, I think that, and I want to say I believe that sometimes grace is extended to the daughter as well, and I never want to make this a male versus female thing at all, like, because that's not the case. I'm the only boy out of 4, so definitely have respect for all women. But when it comes down to the mindset and the mentality of that instant, I have to be a provider. It's like, okay, well, a man has to go work one day. So if you already have it in your mind, that's what you're going to do. We're going to allow you to do that. Whereas if the young lady is in that mind, nah, baby, we've been saving up for you to go to school. Now, you're going to be somebody. You're going to be the one that makes it out of here. And I don't want to just speak from a person who works in this area, but a person that went to both high schools that these gentlemen work at. Well, Mr. Pankey worked at, but I went to Rita and graduated from LaGrove High School. So I lived in that area. So I can speak on the behalf of a person that grew up as the individuals that they work with now and who now goes back to see the students who were my classmates. I'm now the admissions counselor for their kids. So like these things they were prevalent then and they're more prevalent now. So it's like, hey, I didn't go to college, but you're my child, and all my all my classmates from high school, they went on to do things. I'm going to push my daughter there versus my son. hey, well, it's a family business now. I learned how to make it and provide and things of that nature. Now I want you to take the helm of it. So yes, that is something that is definitely a factor. I'm not going to say it's the biggest factor, but it does play a role in it.
All right. I took a few notes, and one thing I think is a factor, and this is like any school, HBCU or predominantly white school. I do believe that some students don't have the capacity or ability to go to a 4-year school. Um, so many of them don't even apply, right? And part of my job is to now say, okay, if a 4-year college is not your option, then maybe a 2-year school or trade school. So I always try to give students options. And if you can do a trade school for 2 years, you can finish up and graduate. There's a possibility later on in life you may attend for 2 more years and get your bachelor's degree, right? But when you think about the report and you're talking about students not just going to college, I believe part of that report is even going to 2-year technical college as well. Like they're just not applying to schools. Um, that's one thing I truly, truly, honestly believe. Um, there's two more things I want to mention, and they kind of go hand in hand, and that's the financial part. There are students who can't afford it even after the amount of scholarship, which is probably minimal, or loans afforded to freshman students, leaving them with a balance that they cannot afford at all. And big shout out to Weems. I didn't even know your daughter went to Albany. So does mine. She's a freshman as well. So I guess we got to connect at some point, right? But my daughter too attends Albany freshman year. She got a little bit of money, didn't get the full scholarship as needed, um, but we did have to come out our pocket a little. And for me being employed, working, I was able to help pay some of those funds. Many of our students' families don't have even that little bit of 15, 2,000, 2,400, 2,500 to pay to send their children to school. So financially, it's almost impossible for them to go to a 4-year institution, right? And then the second part of the financial part is the parents just don't know about a lot about the financial aid process and application. They're afraid to let go of their social security, afraid to let their children apply for financial aid. And even they, I think Weems mentioned, have not been to college. So they're fearful of just the whole process, quote unquote, calling it a scam. That's like a thing on the internet now, like college is a scam, right? So parents do believe
Yes.
this, right? That
Yes, they
it's
do.
not real. And I'm just like, no, there's a way for them to go, and it's possible. We've done it. We've taken loans, right? We've paid the loans back. Some people have, and it's financial is a key. Parents not knowing is a key, and then students being capable to go, right? Having the knowledge to go, or even the will to want to go through another 2 or even 4 years of school when they barely got through high school, should I say.
You said a mouthful. That part right there, that barely got through high school. I don't think we thought about that. That we currently, let's look at the amount of students that are barely pushing it to graduate from high school, and so we're looking at higher education, and we're barely getting them to the 12th grade. What solutions, can we come up with tonight that may be impactful? I heard what you said about the financial part, because I hear that from a lot of our parents, and that's one of the reasons why the Leadership Church have partnered with parents to provide the Leadership in Motion Scholarship. We annually provide this scholarship, but we annually partner with the HBCU initiative since there was a decline of funding for parents to be able to pay for their students to attend college. So that's the Leadership Church initiative, is to make sure that we partner with our parents and we partner with the community. But what are some solutions, that we could provide? How can we make financial aid and scholarships and educational resources more accessible and more visible to Black males? Are we starting with them earlier enough? Like, should we take them on? I mean, personally, like, should Black males uh, take Black male students on college tours or scholarships?
Hey, Miss Cash, we lost you in your video. Hey, Brother Collins, if you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Uh-oh. It seems like we lost Weems too.
I can hear
So
you.
so
I got you. I'm with you.
I'm just going to take off where she left off was a solution until she returns.
Yes,
I think she mentioned about visiting colleges, which is excellent.
phenomenal.
Sometimes even visiting colleges is a handful because it costs money to visit, 35 and $50 for our students to visit, which they sometimes don't even have that. This year, Southwest Cab took 50 students to Tuskegee and Alabama State, and part of it was paid through the PTA or the Alumni Association, right? Which deferred some of the costs, which allowed us to get all of our seats filled. And I'm gonna ask that you chime in, being Payne in Augusta, right? HBCU.
Yes, sir.
We need you all to kind of help sponsor us to take these field trips to allow these students to see the campuses. Sometimes without even just visiting and seeing us there, that alone will not allow us to go, right? So just being able to see Black men in college will allow me to say I can possibly do this. So, put that a bug in your president's ear, like, hey, we want to increase the number. See if we can get a bus from a few schools, once a semester, twice a semester, and allow them to visit the campus on us. And then maybe they will want to apply and attend your school.
Well, I know
I,
Benedict
I
had the whole thing in Clayton County this year,
uh-huh.
and all the schools came there. I think, uh, and they presented. Well, I don't know where was it at, Mr. Collins. It was in Clayton County. I can't remember exactly the central location, but I know all the high schools visit the central
Yeah, so we
location.
have different college fairs. Um, that'll be something that I feel we should partner with certain schools, or not even just certain schools, but certain school districts. Because a lot of people, they rush to throw a college fair, and the idea of a college fair is phenomenal. I want to put that out there. But there are certain ways that if you ask a counselor or a recruiter as myself, I can say, you might want to do it like this. You might want to not do it like that. Hey, something as simple as making us face each other, and now you're forcing all the students to walk in between the tables. Now here they are, they've been in this row for 30 minutes, and they only have 35 minutes before they have to leave. They haven't made it around to the other side. So college visits are very important. Mr. Panky, I thank you for the charge. And I will move forward to see if we can probably get our alumni associations in certain areas to sponsor some students for that. Um, to me, there are certain conversations that we have, but when we go back to HBCUs, The one thing that we have all said individually, funding. So our budget is not always as big as some of the bigger name schools. But if we can find ways to do that, I would definitely be one of the first people to jump in and say, hey, I want to do it. Let's bring your students here. Um, so college visits as early as when they're old enough to walk, to me, is something that you should do. My mother is a alum of Morris Brown. My freshman year in high school, she took me to their homecoming. It was already like when I saw that, I'm going to HBCU. Didn't care which one, I was going to one of them. Had been at Clark with my uncle because he was an electrician there. It didn't solidify as a homecoming did, but being around HBCU culture, letting them know like, hey, I still have access to this professor to this day. That is something that, literally is something that it stands out. And not even just that, but going back to African American males in education, the fact that I know when I go to Southwest DeKalb, before I leave, Mr. Panky is going to have something that he's doing. I sit in his lobby and wait. We might have a 2-second conversation. I just wanted you to know I was here. You need that. But visibility for HBCUs, it definitely has to be there, it has to increase. I don't want to dwell on that too long because I know there were other points that you wanted to bring, Ms. Cash.
No, I think that is phenomenal. The other piece I would even, drill down a little bit more, and that's some lunch and learns. Because college fairs are high level, but when you have that experience when a university come in and they and I've seen that done at the private schools where a university come in and they talk to students, a group of students, 30 kids that you can get. So if we're targeting males, then let's target 30 males, and then we sponsor their lunch, a day where they don't have to eat school lunch. And so, I mean, a couple of boxes of pizza don't cost a whole lot, but if we're able to do lunch and learns where we can drill down and talk to students about potential majors and potential GPA requirements and potential ways to pay for college and funding, and so those conversations, and empower them at an earlier age. Soon as they get their ninth grade, we are empowering them to do other things, but helping them, targeting them at an early age, and then tracking these students from ninth through 12th grade. If a HBCU could continue to do that, and we bring these students in and have lunch and learns where they can ask questions, and then they're required to do research, I think that'll also help, because that's surrounding the mentorship and community programs, to kind of support be a support system to these students, especially for Black males considering higher education. What do you all think about that?
I think that's great. 'Cause I've seen something like that work before. I think that's great. And but one thing I want to say, and this kind of when you were talking about Mr. Pink and Mr. Collins, and I mentioned it earlier, students that used to come to those lunch and learns, like education at the base of it was still like a priority in their family,
Mm,
right? And I said, Mr. Pink is like, it shows a shift. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier, like visibility, because when the college, I remember college tours some years ago, and $35 to $50, but they would literally tell you to turn your money in permission slip because the buses would fill up so fast. And I'm pretty sure you've seen that earlier on. So where have we lost that priority of education? like the lunch and learns are great. Like I said, I've seen that before. They're intimate. They're great. You can ask questions, everything. They're really good. But how do we get back to prioritize that? Even
wow.
the finance of education, like even like the college funds. My kids didn't have a what's that Ralph Rockefeller college fund, but they were to buy a couple things with it, and we did. Me and my first wife did that through divorce, and through the kids, like going to college and stuff. So, and I already started with the younger kids, but where do we like prioritize education? How do we get back to where education is prioritized instead of now? the narrative, with college being a scam. Because I heard that, people say that too, or they don't want to get in debt. Now, luckily for me, all of my debt, all my student loans were paid through the Biden thing. Okay, it was paid then, but I wasn't scared to get in debt because I wanted to graduate, so the debt didn't scare me. So how do we prioritize education? Again, the funding of education. How do we prioritize like visiting colleges on ourselves? Because a lot of times, like you said, Mr. Collins, parents were taking their kids to like college visits when they were young, like homecomings, and just so they could see different things. And I think that I saw homecomings, probate shows, all that as a youngster. So it's like, where do we get back to where we prioritizing education, like with our kids and communities?
We can't forget many of our parents or our students' parents having gone to college. They too are becoming, again, first generational college goers, right? So maybe their grandmother went or great grandmother went, but there's been two generations where no one has gone to college after. So they still don't have that ability to go to a probate or a homecoming with their parents. So um,
Yeah,
I'll
you're
say
right.
more,
You're
but
right.
I just wanted to mention that part.
So that all of that is definitely a role. I think it boils down to having realistic conversations. Um, One of the things that I experienced while I was in high school, we had times where if a college came to our school, all the seniors were dismissed to the auditorium. That was something that was so prominent while I was in high school, to the point that a recruiter could win you over and you would be screaming, I'm going to this school. And you may not even meet the requirements, but you were screaming, I'm going to that school. It's not as easy, or it's not as common that you can come across that. A lot of principals say, hey, no, we're valuing this classroom time. So when you can have access to that, you jump on it. But another thing is, both Mr. Pankey and Coach Wings have said the debt aspect. And one way that I personally try to combat it is let them know, whether you go to college or not, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up in debt. I'd rather your debt be something that you're investing in your future, and hopefully your job can pay for it later on, or you make enough money that you can take care of it, then you just go into debt just because you're going into debt. But that is something that we're facing. But having those hard conversations and letting people know, hey, it is, a lot of students don't know they could go to college. Like, it's not even just going from the aspect of a parent or some. A lot of these students don't believe that they can go. I can speak from Payne College. We have a 2.0 GPA minimum. With that 2.0 GPA, we can give you an $8,000 scholarship, $2,000 a year for 4 years. We give the acceptance letter and the scholarship certificate when I see you and I get your application. Mr. Pankey can probably attest to you. He has students that come to him and say, is this real? I just signed it. Yes. And believe it or not, it's funny because I take care of the cab first because I'm a product of the cab. You really have the ability to change the society in that area if you had enough people believe that they could do it. You really, really do. You have some phenomenal students right there in that backyard. And some of these students blowing class out the water to the point where it shocks me when I'm hearing these group of students, 3.8, 3.9, 4.0s. And then now I'm showing my age. These students have 4.2s, 4.3s. And I'm like, When did we start going below 4.0 was the highest you could go when I was in high school. And it's confusing now because like when people tell me, do you want my weighted or my unweighted GPA? What's your GPA? And I literally had to learn the difference by working in this field. But if we put enough, I guess, love behind these students to let them know you can do this, I think more would be inclined to go to college.
Well, that's a good segue. Thank you so much, Mr. Collins, for that. We're drawing very close to our time, and I want to bring Pastor Tony Cash up to just say hello to everyone and close us out. And I appreciate you so much for this roundtable discussion. You're speaking love language, which is very important to making sure that we wrap our arms around our students, especially our Black male students. So y'all do me the privilege of welcome Pastor Tony to the stage.
Well,
All
first of
right.
all, thank you so much for this amazing moment and opportunity. You always do whatever you do very well. For a lot of the gentlemen on this uh, that I'm seeing, I know you better than you know me, I promise you, because she's talked about most of you all. I see Mr. Wings, and which one of you all go by Panky? Who is that? Um, okay, there he is. All right. Okay, see, yeah, see, so she talks to me about you all and has talked about you guys for a long time, and I had to just make sure, y'all wasn't no threat. I said, wait a minute now, you get too happy about these brothers. So, I'm a brother too now. Like every time I turn around, you talking about these. So I know your names, and I just thank you all so much for um, being a part of this. I know what this means to Pastor Alicia. I know what it means to our community. And I want everyone who sees this to understand how important you are to the overall success of our young men in the community. And I think about it as I close. Um, Early in my life, I didn't understand the value of education. And it was later on in life I went to achieve my degree. But one thing I realized is that it's hard to know the value of what's not valued around you. But when we show that value, and I think it was Mr. Collins who said, and we let them know we love them, that everything we're doing is because we love them and we want to see the best in them. We want to see them, the best out of them, and they're our future. I think that changes everything. So as you are looking at this moment or part of this moment, please, in your own way, uh, be a vital part of this by giving. Be a vital part of this by saying, I'll make that small sacrifice so that one more young man is able to become a leader in our community. So again, just thank all of you for being a part of this process. Pastor E, you have anything before I pray us out?
No, I didn't. I just want to thank all our viewers for being a part of our roundtable discussion. We are hosting our HBCU Scholarship Sneaker Ball on June 22nd, where we will be honoring students who will be receiving scholarships from the Leadership in Motion Scholarship. And so, if you know any male students that would like to attend an HBCU and stand up in need of a scholarship, please have them go to leadchurchatl.org and apply. The deadline closes on this Saturday, and so we're still have some scholarships of opportunities available for some male students. Additionally, if you want to support your HBCU and show up to the scholarship sneaker ball, you can scan the barcode that is showing right before you and purchase a ticket and come be a part of the movement and promoting scholarship and promoting Black students and promoting historically Black college and universities.
Amen. Thank you again, Pastor. Lord, we thank you for this time that we've had together. We pray that something we said has encouraged the heart of some young man, has encouraged the heart of woman or man to give more so that our young brothers will have this amazing opportunity to be educated and become future leaders in our society and our community. So as we leave this call, touch their hearts, touch their minds, help them see the value they bring to the next generation's success. We thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen, brother. Thank you.
Amen. Thank
Amen.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.